Okay. Hello, everybody. How are we today? How are you, Jacob? You're my everybody at the moment.
It's exciting to be the full audience right now. I'm doing well.
You are.
And you? Good morning.
Good morning. It feels like a morning. Feels like a tiring morning today. Well, what are we here to discuss?
Phantom
Do we
of the
know?
Opera, book and movie.
Did you get a copy of this one, or did you just do the ebook?
I just did the ebook and the audiobook combined, kind of flipped back and forth a little bit to try and to basically listen to it, and then when I heard something that was like, oh, I want to make note of it, then tried to find it in the ebook to do through Fable and try to connect it that way. But no, mostly just the audiobook for this one.
Good morning, Brendan. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I didn't really read the physical book, but I did get it before I started.
Copy of it, though.
Huh?
I like your copy of it, though. It looks nice.
It's pretty simple. They had a lot of cool copies of this, actually. So if anyone loved this book, Barnes & Noble had tons of cool copies. I kind of went simple because some of them are too heavy to actually read. But yeah, I mostly listened. And then I actually liked the ebook a lot because I liked the Fable highlighting. Hi, Lyndon. Happy Saturday. Thanks for being here. Well, I guess who had time to watch the movie as well? Did you watch the movie, Jacob?
Did. I finished the book on Thursday and then went ahead and watched the movie Thursday night as well, and figured that was the best way to tie it all together.
Yeah. You just know me. I finished the book yesterday and I also watched the movie yesterday. So
I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah, we're here. We're ready. We're ready to talk about both. Brendan said he listened to it. I'm going to have a hard time with names. No movie watched either. The names are just hard.
Yeah, the hard time with names. I think that's kind of, honestly, maybe a good spot to start the whole discussion is starting to try and follow everything at the beginning of this book. First off, all the pronunciations are French, so I can't picture the spellings. Like I feel like half the time for audiobooks, that's what helps me is I can picture what they're writing.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to follow some of the characters early on in this one, it's like I've got to just let some of this go, and in 20 minutes, I'm going to know who the important characters are. I don't need to know all these people.
I think that's something about older classic type books, and I need to look up for sure when this was from, but they're giving you a little too much. And it's like they know that it's not that important, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
It's difficult to read and latch on to what matters. Because truly at the end, all that matters is Christine, the Phantom, and
Raoul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the stage managers, like maybe Carlotta. You can start to argue a few more, but it's less than 10, and they're giving you all these names at the start.
Yeah.
Just a
very,
bit much.
very much so. Well, how did people feel about the book? Just a quick check-in about kind of generally the book as a whole.
Rating?
Yeah, rating. Do you have a rating in mind?
No, somehow this part always takes me by surprise.
You're like,
I'm going with the rating on the spot.
Yeah.
I think it falls into like a 3.5 sort of range for me. I definitely went into it expecting to like it more than I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where's it fall for you?
I want to remember like what I rated Dracula, because I think I would have rated Dracula higher than this. So I'm trying to look back. I need to consider that, but it's like probably not even breaking like 3. Yeah. It's a little too long, but I feel like it's under 3, which I feel bad saying, but this is like a 2 point something. For me.
Be perfect.
You know, we'll get into it, but it just was a slog, and I'm like, this is too short to be a slog, but it was. It sure was.
I mean, starting to get into it there, what did you not like about it? What prevented it from being a higher rating for you?
I did not care for a single character.
A strong argument.
The movie, I'm not gonna I need to not step into the movie yet because 'cause we'll talk about that too, but I did not care about any of them. They don't have a lot of depth as characters. They're pretty shallow and uninteresting to me. And that was that. I think the, like, element of how the book was set up, like a note at the beginning, like, this ghost is real, but it didn't fully get to the whole spooky part, and maybe it's not supposed to. It's gothic for sure, but
It's on the edge of gothic, right? There's something
yeah,
I was reading about this that time frame wise, it's like on that transition from gothic.
yeah, romantic to gothic. It's in the
Romantic.
transition.
Okay.
Mhm. What did you rate it, Brendan? Let's see. You liked it overall?
It's a great rating.
Yeah.
I definitely think there could have been faster pace to it, and I do see what you're saying on the depth. There's some depth, I think, to the Phantom. Like you get
Mhm.
pieces of his backstory and motivations a little bit, but
Yeah.
not for more than like maybe him and kind of Christine and Raoul. You get a little bit of the backstory, but there's not a lot of build out other than the backstory.
Yeah, I think, like, they are given backstories, but I don't think it added depth to their characters.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was weird to me was, I guess, the overarching theme here is, like, love, jealousy. Is what is love is given freely, possessiveness, all like, the kind of those different
Mhm.
types of love, maybe? I feel like that was the most, I guess, interesting part of it and maybe what you're supposed to take away. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have a clear lesson that I felt like was being presented in this one, like a clear takeaway in that way. There definitely was. I don't the dynamic of like the love from Raoul versus from Eric is interesting. Like the possessiveness from Eric's side with
Yeah.
needing her to be in the room under the opera house and all that. That was just a different. I don't know. It was a weird dynamic. I think.
But see, I'm gonna come in with maybe an unpopular opinion. I hated Raoul more than the Phantom.
Yeah,
He
I'm
was
trying to remember.
so annoying in the book. Like, he really was. Like, I was like, "You're so irritating, and you're just as controlling as the Phantom in my mind, just in a less possessive, like, you need to be here way, like, you're mentally possessive." Really, to me, the theme is that, like, men want control. I don't know, and they find different ways to get it. I Yeah, I didn't like him. So, like,
Do
to
you think?
me, not a romantic interest. I thought he was like, "I have ownership over you. We grew up together. You should be like this. This is the kind of woman you should be." So
No,
that's how I
I definitely didn't find Raoul likable. I don't know that I felt as negatively about him as you did, but he wasn't.
hated him.
It wasn't like I was rooting for him strongly.
I know, I think he's supposed to be a pretty young guy as well, so it's probably like, this is his first love and whatever, but I was like, "Mm-mm, they aren't gonna last if you ask me." Movie is different. I think he was showcased differently in the movie.
Yeah, I might have liked him less in the movie, but we can get to that.
Oh my god. Okay.
I could kind of on that. Do you think that the Phantom is supposed to be a villain or the other love interest and like an anti-hero? And it's very easy, I think. With it starts off with the murder pretty
Mhm.
early on, and then obviously he's pulling all these pranks, and like sometimes people end up dead from it. It happens, but
It happens.
if you disregard how he's treating everybody else, he's not a villain for the majority of the book in the relationship with Christine, or like in
Yeah.
that interaction.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, do you think he's supposed to be a villain in this?
Um, hmm. Yeah, yes and no. I don't know, because I know at the end, like, he makes the right choice, and so it's like, is he redeemable at the end? Is he really a villain to his
Mhm.
core at the end? I mean, I think we are dealing with a grown man, so he should learn how to handle these things,
Sure,
but
sure.
he has faced a lot of hardship in his life and hasn't been accepted or loved, so, like, what has he learned from that? Um, yeah, I don't know. To me, in the book, like, I felt like she shouldn't be with either. In the movie, Raoul makes sense, but I think there is love between her and the Phantom. I just don't think it's quite as romantic for her.
So, the love for her, I feel like, has to come from the Angel of Music stuff and, like, initially thinking like, her first interactions with him is just his voice, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
How did you feel like there was a connection? I felt like I was missing something a little bit between the idea that the angel of music is something that was told to her by her dad that angel of music's going to visit you, and then all of a sudden the phantom is the angel of music. I felt like I was
Yeah.
missing a connection there.
I feel like that was maybe just to drive the plot or make you see why she would spend time with this character who's kinda controlling, like, why she would keep coming back to perform for him or work with him. Because at first, I kind of wanted it to be more like, "Oh, like, you're selling your soul to be
Mm,
a talented musician," right? To, like, have all this success,
yeah.
but then I don't feel like that came to fruition or actually made sense in the plot, so I thought it was a confusing element as well.
Maybe it's just like she heard this voice, thought it was the angel of music, and then the phantom plays along. Like, yeah, that's me. I can teach you to sing.
I can
Sure.
do that. Let's see, Brendan, what did you think of the characters? Agree that there are not a lot of likable characters. I think I honestly like the 2 owners of the opera the best that are not gonna give into the Phantom's wills. That's fair.
They were fun.
Fair take. He was way more of a villain than I thought he would be based on my prior knowledge of the material. I definitely thought I was entering a love triangle type story, and it I don't know that it was that, you know?
Interesting. I do think I read it that way as a
As
love
a love
triangle.
triangle?
Yeah.
Hmm, really? You think she loves the Phantom?
Not I mean, not the entire story, but
Yeah.
at points that she is choosing to go back to him, yeah.
Yeah, and kinda stringing along Raoul. I
A
think
little
Raoul
bit.
just was obsessed.
Yeah. I
I
don't know, I
didn't
feel like
again,
Raoul was the childhood sweetheart and, like, maybe made more sense from an age standpoint as well, because the Phantom is some kid who grew up there or guy grew up elsewhere and moved there, and then I don't she was super young when she got to the opera house, right? So there's some big age gap there. Anyway, um, that's just it. But I don't know. There were definitely points where she was choosing to go back to the Phantom, and I think was like almost in love with the idea of it, with his voice and everything, and the meh, maybe the connection to it because of her father. I don't know, but I definitely didn't feel like it was a one-sided thing for the entire story.
Um, yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, she's kind of taken with him and what he knows and his knowledge, maybe. Oh, Hannah said it felt like Stockholm Syndrome-esque. See, that's how I felt about Raoul, though. See, I just hate Raoul so much in the book. I need to chill out. I need to chill out about him, but I just can't stand him. I thought it was more of a Hunchback of Notre Dame type of story rather than an ugly guy is controlling and has a torture room and kills people type of story. Yeah, he was a little bit of a different beast than the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I can't say I'm familiar with that story. I mean, obviously I know it, the title, but I have not read it or seen the Disney version or the non-Disney version.
I mean, off topic, but it has some very heavy stuff, especially for children.
They have this whole keep it in mind for the next one, or
yeah, we'll just watch that movie. No, the movie is okay. There's a priest who has a whole song about how he's gonna like hang this woman or kill this gypsy because she's made him feel lustful. Hellfire Desire, look it up, babe.
Gotcha. Hellfire Desire. Okay.
And he's like, it's her fault that I feel lustful. Let's get rid of it.
I don't think I've even seen the Disney one.
Man, that's the Disney one, by the way. That song is in the Disney version. I know.
That's not a Disney lyric. That's fair.
Anywho, sorry, we're off base.
Way off topic.
Hannah, did you watch the movie? I don't know. I know Brennan didn't watch the movie, but we have some movie thoughts as well. I don't know. This book just didn't do it for me.
The movie, I mean, if you had to put the movie on a 1 to 5, the same as the book, is the movie higher than a 2?
I think I was like, good thing we didn't name our book club. Like we were thinking of naming it like the book was better, because I do feel like the film version was better.
Name it the book was better, and then the very first one, it's not true.
Yeah. How did you feel?
I liked the movie better as well. I was surprised how much of the same like musical themes were reprised through it. There was kind of just like 2 or 3 main melodies, and we just used those for the entire movie.
Okay, but I had never seen it, but I knew the song, like the movie opened, and I heard the song, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like I know this," because obviously it's very popular. I probably sound dumb, but I didn't know it was from the movie.
Which one does it open with?
The dun 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 kind of one.
Okay, yeah.
It's not dun dun dun, but you know what I mean.
The heavier one, not the what's the other one? Yeah, it's got like music of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can get into the movie and circle back to a few like closing questions, more book related too.
Sure.
I definitely liked it more as a middle schooler than as an adult. It was my first time watching it, so all of my thoughts are current, I suppose. Because I feel like I would have liked it if I was younger too. Well, one of my main questions from the movie was, obviously in the book, they talk a lot about the angelic voice, the haunting voice of the Phantom, like how amazing his voice was. Did you feel like the movie lived up to it once you heard Gerard Butler, which I was shocked that was him. Anyways.
He apparently learned to sing for this role. Like this was his first role that was singing.
That's insane.
I don't know that I would say his voice was angelic, but I thought he had a solid voice.
Especially knowing that. Wow.
Yeah, I was more impressed, I think, with Christine's voice. Especially, I was looking it up, and she was like 16 at the time of the filming.
She did have an amazing voice. She had a much more haunting, angelic voice. She made a lot of sense for the role. I think she was good Christine.
I don't think the movie lived up to it for me. For his voice specifically.
It's hard when you're like picturing this voice that you don't know what it is. Does that make sense? Like you're making up what this angelic voice would be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely thought she was very amazing in it. Added in that I love the music for sure. Yeah. And again, I don't know if I do musicals that well. They sang too much for me. And it's a musical, so it's like I can't complain. I entered knowing what this was.
You knew what was coming.
We circled back a few many times to like suddenly we're singing about it. I'm like, damn it. I was trying to understand some plot.
I was a little surprised when I started it, and it was like 2 hours and 21 minutes remaining. seems like a little bit much for a 7-hour book,
Mhm.
but
But I will say I love films about theater are really fun, where they're, like, filming a stage and it's a whole theatrical production.
mm,
Um, but, from a film standpoint, I liked that part of it, taking place in the
yeah.
opera. But yeah, some of the like, the guy, Raoul, singing while he's about to get hung by the phantom. I was like, "Did we need to? Did we need to?" That's just my thoughts.
I could see it. It pulls from the moment a little bit.
I was like, "Okay,
How do
sure."
you feel with the movie kinda changed the order of some of the things and, like, changed the pacing of it a little bit as well? So it like, the big one for me is Christine getting taken down to that room underneath right at the beginning of the movie. I felt
Yeah.
like it didn't, for me at least, it didn't give the same build in where she's choosing the Phantom initially. Like, the first
Um,
interaction is the kidnap, essentially.
can you hear all my dings?
Yes.
Okay, I just muted it. Sorry. That was
You're good.
driving me nuts. Go on. Yes, they switched those scenes.
Yeah, do you think you viewed the Phantom differently in the book versus the movie
I do
because of
think
the ordering of them?
I mean, I didn't think of it in that way, but now that you've, kind of introduced that, I do think he seems more evil in the movie than he does in the
Yeah,
book. Yeah, and
I agree.
I don't know. I did picture him more like Brennan kind of brought up that, Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of, um, archetype, I guess, but yeah. They also changed his origin story, so that was I think also
Yeah.
changes it, and maybe
Yeah,
adds something more evil.
you thought the movie was a more evil one?
What
So the book one, right, he, like, was the architect of some palace for, like, a
Right,
sultan, and he built in all the secret passages and everything, and then the sultan
right,
was gonna have him killed because he knew about all the passages, and then he, like, escapes and is just living in hiding, basically.
right,
I
and
kinda
then
like that.
that's better than he's kind of evil from birth because of his deformities, right? Like, he's perceived as
Yeah, like, he's disfigured, and so they're kind of like, he's in a circus, and they're just using him as a show, essentially.
yeah, yeah. That would make
But
anyone evil. I guess it aligned with who he was in the I don't know.
later I don't know, I think just
Mhm.
for, like, what his relationship is with the opera house, I liked better the idea that he came here and built it and designed it and everything, instead
Yes.
of just, like, he's a kid that grew up here, and there happens to be a torture room. There happens to be this secret room underneath. I don't know,
Yeah,
it
'cause
felt like it took away from his character a bit.
yeah, it makes more sense if he built out a lot of those things
Yeah,
and, has all this knowledge. 'Cause, yeah, how is he really moving undetected otherwise?
yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree.
Mm,
I
okay.
did I did think earlier when Brendan was mentioning the managers being his favorite, I think you would enjoy the casting of the managers in the movie, Brendan. They were fun
Yeah,
as well.
they were fun. Didn't the book also talk about how he never received love from his mother? Yes. I think the movie kinda did too.
Yeah, there's just an age difference in, like, how
Between
old he is when he gets
Christine
to the opera house. Because in one of them, he's already grown up and, like, had this other life where he's designing these things versus being a kid when he's at the opera house.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is such a this one sticks out to me, but I really had a strong preference, I think, for how it was set up in the book.
Yeah. That makes sense. I definitely think it changed your perception of him, the 2 different, I don't know, scenarios. Um, so did we all have a preference for the movie or the book? Poor Brendan's like, "I can't weigh in on that." I think you and I both expressed it's the book or the movie for us.
Yeah, I would lean movie. I would be curious to read like a modern adaptation of it, of the book,
Mhm.
and just see if there are elements of it that I don't like about the book just because of the time frame that it's from.
Yeah, that could be true. Because I don't mind a love triangle, and I don't mind these 2 opposing, very different forces, like someone older who knows things and who seems mystical, um, to this young woman, or, like, a childhood love. I'm fine with this decision, or, like, those archetypes, but I don't think either one was done well in the book. I was like, "Choose
Mm.
neither of these men. Move on. Move on with your life." Okay, how do we feel about the whole ventriloquist thing? I didn't love the whole he can throw his voice. Oh, that's how you sound like a ghost. Good point. You have thoughts, Jacob?
I do have thoughts.
Go for it. Shoot.
That's another reason I like the whole architect thing. Where if he's the architect of this, they talk about how in the palace that he built or whatever it was, the first thing he built, that the way that it was structured, you had all these ways that the sound reverberated, and you could like go to a certain spot to either hear conversations or throw your voice because of the shape of the
Mhm.
room and the passages through the building.
Yeah.
If he's able to have that control over the architecture, he can do that for the opera house as well. And then it's not ventriloquism throwing your voice in that way. It's like it's a structural thing. I like that explanation of it way better as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Emily also hi, Emily, but Emily also said it was so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think it fits super well.
It was kind of a cool scene when he's in the movie up above the chandelier and like
Mhm.
talking up in that dome and his voice is just everywhere.
Yeah,
Kind of a cool scene.
yeah. That definitely makes it more interesting. And Hannah also said she preferred the movie, but really not by much. They both fell a little flat for me. Hannah, join the club. I think, had higher expectations for what I thought it would be. Yeah.
On both the book and the movie, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't there were a few, like, songs in the movie I liked, and clearly very talented singers, performers, but,
Yeah.
uh, I just I don't know. I don't know, and they tried to make
Wasn't
Raoul look good, and I was like, "Okay, I'm over this." So, would you guys recommend these to other people? Would you read something else by this author? Those sorts of things. I wouldn't recommend these, clearly. We got a
Would you
sub
read other stuff by Leroux?
Um, honestly, in some ways, it kind of I don't know. I don't know. It got better towards the end. The writing did. It got more fluid. I felt like more interested in what was going on. The opening was really rough for me. The first few chapters, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to break chapter 3. Like, I can't keep going.
Maybe you
So,
should have looked for like an abridged version that somebody went and cut out all the info at the beginning that we don't need.
I know. I did have to, like, because I was having trouble, so I had to go look up a character list because I was like,
Yeah.
think this first few chapters aren't working for me. Um, yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to understand things that were not worth understanding.
No,
Truly.
it was a confusing book.
Yeah. Would you recommend these?
I don't know if I'd probably recommend the abridged version because I think it probably cleans some of that up.
Like a
And I
fan
was
fiction
reading a
of
little
it,
bit of it.
maybe?
What was that?
A fan fiction inspired by this idea.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Let's see. Emily, I was too confused by the opera house layout. I was confused the whole book. Too much to recommend. Yeah. Makes me feel better that other people felt as confused as I did because it was not all clicking for me. And then it was like some of that was so elaborate and then the characters were not. And I was like, I don't like, and I'm character driven. Maybe that's part of it. Like I wanted to care about my characters and I couldn't care about a single one. That's where I was at. Um, I feel like it's one of those books that doesn't hurt to read once, but I personally would never read it again. That's fair. I think I could have gone with never reading it, but it's good, it's good. It builds your knowledge, and people do use, like, themes from this often, so definitely gives you more, I don't know, what's the word? More knowledge entering the reading world. I would probably tell people to watch the musical/show instead. Book was a bit of a letdown. So we're all just having a great morning discussing this book we all
I will say the musical I saw a number of years ago, like, before having read the book or seen the movie, and it's kind of a cool one because they do like, they have the chandelier up there, and there's some cool things with the setting, and then
Mhm.
a lot of the music is big, and so having that experience that's in person, I think it's an enjoyable musical, even if the story is tough to follow. Because I do actually remember that about the musical as well, being a little confused because I didn't know the story going in all that
Yeah.
well.
But also, yeah, like, there are some wonderful songs, and if you have a very strong
Mhm.
Christine, that can make a show for sure. Emily
Yeah.
and I are on the same page, yeah, we would have just been fine never picking it would have our lives would have kept going. Yeah, I don't think I'd read anything else from him.
My
Per
only debate, I was reading about him a little bit, and I don't know if he's the first author, but he's, like, one of the most well-known early authors of, like, locked room mysteries, where it seems like it's an impossible crime, or, like, they shouldn't have gotten away or something. And I've
Mhm.
read, like, early Edgar Allan Poe stuff that's his first, like, detective fiction, and some of
Yeah.
the reading some of those early stories, like you said about the themes, you start to see it then in all the things in that same genre. So I could see reading it's called, like, The Yellow Door Mystery or something. That's the Gaston Leroux
Okay.
locked room one, that has some appeal. His other stuff, I think I'm with you on. I don't know that I'd
Yeah.
necessarily seek it out.
I know a lot of people kinda compared him to Edgar Allan Poe a little
Oh,
bit, some
really?
of his writing style. I was just looking for, seeing about how other people felt about the book after I finished,
Yeah.
and some people felt like he has kind of a Edgar Allan Poe-esque vibe, but I don't know if he's quite that gothic to me. I do think he really is a bridge between that romantic genre era and that gothic era. It's not quite as gothic as, like, Dracula, you know?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
some people felt that way. I didn't really see it that way, but I did see reviews that
It is
felt.
interesting. I didn't, like, compare it to Dracula as I was reading it, but I can certainly see.
I kinda got Dracula vibes, mostly maybe 'cause of era a little
Mm.
bit, and because of, like, this like, the character of Dracula and this character of the Phantom, I felt had like, similar mystique around them. Obviously, Dracula for much longer.
Much longer, and Dracula, there's a lot less maybe explanation of how he does these things. There
Mhm.
is more mystique. It's more supernatural than with the Phantom. It's like we get to the end and they try and explain everything as here's how and why this all worked and happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
Mm,
I think maybe it's a different story trying to do something different, you know? Like,
sure.
I feel like maybe if the Phantom had been more supernatural, I would have been more in for that that love triangle and been like, "Choose the Phantom."
Yeah, I can see that.
It's just a regular schmegular dungeon dweller, you know? What can you do? Um, okay, Hannah said, "Jacob mentioned this in the Fable group, but I
Mm.
got a lot of Les Mis vibes as I read it." And for out of
Yeah.
context, I did not like reading that either. So it's this era, Hannah, we need to stay away from this era of reads.
See, I go the other way on that one. I love Les Mis. Like that book I think is really interesting. There is a portion early on where you have to deal with like 100 pages where they're talking about the history of French priests, but other than that, really, really interesting.
See, I don't think I could pick up Les Mis 'cause and Hannah mentions it's mostly the writing style, which makes sense. I don't like Les Mis, the movie.
Mm.
Sorry, team. Jacob's like, so after this meeting, you guys, when you all
This has
leave,
been
Jacob's
great being a part of this. This would be my last one. Yeah.
gone. So, I don't like Les Mis. I don't think I like musicals. So it's like, sorry, I'm here
To each
though.
their own.
I'm
To each their
trying.
own.
I'm trying my best. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a non-musical adaptation of Phantom.
I think that would take away from it though. Like, even with the point that I'm not a huge musical person,
Mhm.
I do think the book leads you to want music for it. You know, you're like, "Oh, I wanna hear these people sing or play the violin or whatever."
Mhm.
It's such a big part of the book, so I feel like that would take away from it. Oh, Hannah says there is one. There is one. It's a silent film. That would be worse
I
than a
don't know.
musical.
That's quite a choice to make, though. I might have to look at that.
Yeah, no, that could be interesting. Look for Jacob's follow-up notes on the
That's right.
second version.
I'll add notes in the fable. That's a
Well,
silent
bringing
film.
this to around to the end of the book and
Yeah.
how we feel at the end, do you feel like at the end the Persian is a reliable source? Do we trust our narrator at the end with what they tell us?
Maybe I wasn't reading it critically enough, but I never really questioned the narrator. I kinda just rolled with it of, like so I guess, yes, trusting him seemed reliable enough.
I
Everybody else kind of avoided the topic, at least this guy's talking about it?
Yes. That's true. I kind of, like, wanted it to be a little more twisty, I think is what it is. I wanted it to be like the Phantom
Hmm.
narrating stuff, because they act like, "Oh, some of these deaths are accidental," and he's like, "Yeah, they are. They totally were." You know?
Yeah, I think that may be a little bit of the era as well, that there's more stories now that end on a cliffhanger, they end open-ended so that it's left with whoever your consumer is to live with it. The
Yes.
books at this point, like, you kinda have to tie everything up maybe, that's just a more typical practice of you finish all of your storylines, you fully explain how it all worked.
I do think that was what I've learned from us reading so many classics recently is, like, open-ended books were much it was much more of a thing at the time in a lot of these classic novels. You're left to
Well,
wonder.
even the Sleepy Hollow that we
Mhm.
started this off with, and thinking about the discussion we had around, uh, like, what
And
happened to him. Like, do you think he died, or do you think he just left? And that there were
yeah,
questions that you were left with.
yeah. I never really questioned it either. I have no reason to not believe the Persian, I guess. There's no indication in the text that we shouldn't trust the narration as far as I remember. What?
Just Brendan and I both just naturally trusting the words that the
You're just
author's
like, "Of
given us.
course." I thought
Yeah.
it was interesting because they were like, "Oh, well, we could never actually, like, get evidence that supported X, Y, and Z," but he said that. Also, like, I think it makes him less trustworthy that they don't give him a name. Like, why is he the Persian? Couldn't we give this man a name?
How
That
do
would've
you
made
feel
me
about
trust
the asides from the author? Like, from Leroux, you'd have the narrator, and then he'd be like, "I've promised so and so that I'm not gonna tell you this part." And then it'd go back to the
Yeah, I like that.
okay, I did too.
I think that adds to the fun
Yeah.
of it, and, like, the letter at the beginning of, like, you don't know where this is going yet, but, like, he is
Mhm.
a real person, and I'm gonna confirm that. And sometimes I like that in writing because then you'll get to points where you're like, "This can't be real. This is imagination." And then, of course, at the end, like, they do bring it where they told you they were going to. So I do like that kind of element mixed in. I think the narrator just wasn't all-knowing.
Hmm.
That makes more sense, actually, to think of it that way. They were trying to figure it out as well with what they knew. I love an all-knowing narrator, dang it. It's probably better to not have an all-knowing narrator.
It gives a little bit of just natural direction to the story development because they have to find stuff out the same way we do.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I guess I get that for like mysteries and stuff. It's sometimes nicer to feel like you're with that character and you guys are seeing all the same clues or like following the same trail at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But well, our next book I'm sure will be more fun.
Yeah, so we kind of run out of discussion quicker on this one. There's like not a lot of depth on the characters. Kind of felt meh about the book and the movie.
Yeah. And we did it and we know more now.
Now we know exactly.
But I do care about characters a little too much, I think, to get really into this one. I will say, I liked the scenes, the setting for the movie. Like the sets were really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It really brought like a lot of it to life. So it was done well.
Yeah, I think the main things that were lacking for me in the movie were the things that were lacking in the book, which I guess says that the movie did a good job.
Yeah, it did actually stay fairly true.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I guess good. Depends on how you
Always a
look.
fan of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always a
True to
fan
what
of
it
that.
was presenting. Although maybe I would have had more fun if the Phantom was like a Danny Phantom kind of situation, but that's just me. Maybe I should write that.
That's the fanfic we're looking for.
I'll work on that, you guys. Don't worry. Well, thank you guys for getting up this morning, hanging out with us, talking about an interesting book for sure. Shows up a lot in culture, pop culture at least. I'm going to put a poll up for our next book. I'm thinking, Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace crew, but I'm thinking about having us just vote on a genre, and then I'm going to choose a book within that genre for this round. The classics have been fun. I just don't know if it'd be fun to mix it up a little bit more and read from a different genre. Emily's right with us. It was definitely a book. It was definitely a book, and we read it. What a great idea. That idea did come from Brendan, you guys, to vote on our genre for this month. So if you guys have a specific genre you would like in that poll, speak now. You guys get first claim because you actually show up for book club and you mean a lot to us. So if you want to throw out a genre, I'll throw it in the poll. But classics will still be an option on there. I just wanted to reach out to the community, see what everyone would like to read. Yeah. Hannah likes the idea. And so does Emily. Thank goodness, you guys. The OG crew right here is all okay with that idea. Do any of you have a specific genre you want me to add? Jacob, did you have a specific genre you wanted to?
No, I'm going to leave it open to the group. I picked Phantom, and we saw how that worked out. So I'm gonna let the group choose a genre.
Other people voted for it. It was you brought it to the table. Other people voted on it.
And I do apologize.
No. Boy, howdy. Wow, Brendan. I would love to read a romance novel, not
the boy howdy really sells it there.
Fantasy, just not too big a book. I got you. That 350-page fantasy realm. That could be fun. Okay, I'll throw romance, fantasy. Always a big fan of mysteries. So is Brendan Hannah. So he'll want that on there because he wants an Agatha Christie still. He's going to keep voting that until it happens, I guess. So, okay, I'll throw all of those on there. Romance, fantasy, and mystery. Jacob's not throwing his hat in the ring this time. Too worried about the backlash.
We'll see. I think even with those three genres, we should be able to. I'm sure you have picks that would fall into each of those that we would want to read.
Yeah, I feel like there's some good ones. Yeah, and then I think we will not meet the first week in March. Probably the second weekend in March is right now what we think will happen. But we'll keep you updated. I always post it on Instagram. I post it on our community tab. You'll see it. I think that's all today, you guys. Have a beautiful Saturday. I'll put the poll up after this. So right after we're done, go to the channel. It'll be on the community tab. Any final thoughts from you, Jacob? Just apologies. Is that all you have?
I'm glad to have read it. It's not one. I think maybe Hannah mentioned this earlier that I don't feel a need to read it again.
Mm-hmm.
The music was good. I'm glad to have experienced both of them. But
yeah,
I could have done that on my own. I didn't need to drag you all into it. So the apologies come from that point of view.
No, we're happy to be on the ride. I think that's all. We'll see you guys next time. I'll put the poll up. I'm excited for us to maybe change it up a little, see what we land on. All right.
Should be fun.
Bye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Jacob, for being here, as always. Bye.